Alright everyone, it looks like Vermont finally is positioning itself to make history yet again. This is actually roughly the same as what we did with gay marriage. Now, of course, gay marriage was already legal in Massachusetts and I think Maryland before it was legal here in Vermont. But we were the first to, in a legislative as opposed to judicial fashion, legalize it. It made us the first, at least on the token of using the representative system to get to accomplish that. We're about to do that, it seems, with marijuana. The House and Senate have already passed the bill, and I support the bill. It contains no significant regulations. Essentially, it legalizes marijuana up to an ounce, and it includes a provision instead of decriminalization, where it's basically it's like DACA, it's like deferred action, slap on the wrist, okay, you get a fine. It's not a crime, it's a fining offense, essentially like a parking ticket right now to have up to an ounce. Now you won't even get that. You can probably walk around, I guess, with it in your pocket, and they can't do shit about it. We still have drug testing, though, widely for some reason, even though it's going to be legal. So it's like, I don't exactly know why, because it's bullshit. But anyway, weed is not the big demon, the big boogeyman that other people believe it to be. I know people that smoke weed. I don't, but I know people that do. And I've smoked weed myself in the past. I feel just fine. Don't worry about me. Actually, other substances marketed as legal alternatives were the ones that fucked me up. I've told the story about my run-in with Spice. That was, I think, 2010 or 2011. It was a long time ago. I feel better now, but for a while I was all messed up. Marijuana never did that to me. Now I can't even smoke marijuana because it just gives me panic attacks. So I'm like, what the fuck is the point? I'd rather have a beer or a Red Bull. I'll stick to caffeine and alcohol. And quit tobacco too. Not without good reason. But it looks like we're going to be the first to do it in a legislative sense. And I support it. Phil Scott dragged his heels on this, you'll remember before, and I chastised him for it. I'm still going to chastise him. Because he goes on TV the other day, Phil, just sign the bill and shut up about it, let the legislature handle it. Trust me, it's not good for your public relations to say the sort of things you said last night. He comes in and says, well, I still have concerns, but, we've got to do this, but at the same time I have reservations, I'll sign it, but, I think it might get into the hands of kids or whatever. It's like 21 and older, you can smoke weed. So if you're 18, you can smoke tobacco. That's safe for you, but you got to wait till you're 21 for alcohol and marijuana. That makes a lot of sense. Get yourself addicted to nicotine, boy. It's all American because here's where all the tobacco is grown, but some of this weed might be from Canada, so it's evil. It's sort of like their invasion of maple syrup from Canada. We've got to defeat the maple menace. That's basically what you're saying to me. Look, who cares if some kid is smoking pot? You don't think that they do anyway from time to time? Like they don't also drink a beer or smoke a cigarette, which is about the worst thing they'd be doing. I would much rather, let's say I had kids and I found them trying a cigarette, I'd be like, and smack it out of their hand, I'd be like, don't fucking do that again. But if I saw them smoking a weed pipe, I'd be like, okay, keep it to yourself. I don't know about it. And, make sure it's reliable. Don't get something that's laced and fuck yourself up. And don't take weed from strangers. Get it from someone you know. Now that it's legal, maybe Daddy-O can grow a plant. That's basically what you would do, because that's the sane thing to do. Make your own alcohol. You can brew your own alcohol, you can grow your own tobacco, but until Phil Scott signs his little name on this piece of paper, you can't even grow a plant. That was the other part of decriminalization that made no sense, honestly. The state said, well, it's not that bad, so we're not really going to do anything unless it's a large amount of pot, but you can't grow it, that's still a felony. What are you talking about? The plant itself, okay, until the buds start forming, what are you going to do? Smoke the leaves and stems of the marijuana plant? That's really going to get you real high, boy. It's going to be great. Eat a weed salad. No, sorry. I think methinks that you might actually be one of the nerdy people who never saw marijuana in real life and doesn't know, you were the stiff at the party, so no one ever told you that they were smoking weed. They just kept it a secret. Oh, yeah, Phil, I never tried it either. I think that's what a lot of these people are doing. So legalistic and boring, and come on. And Phil, you got to realize you're a Republican in a heavily blue state. You're already at a disadvantage. Basically, Shumlin had to shoot himself in the foot with single payer, and your opponent had to be single-mindedly fixated on getting rid of sporting rifles and be basically a female Bloomberg transplant. That's the situation in which you won the election. Now, you can coast to victory again, but stop defaming marijuana. It's not going to work. There are a lot of happy hippies in this state that smoke it all the time. You know, and there's no problem with that. So far, there's no public health crisis from marijuana. It's not a gateway drug. It's not going to cause all sorts of problems. Colorado and Washington State, Alaska, D.C., a bunch of other places legalized it. New Hampshire's moving to legalize. Now, of course, they just decriminalized it after, I believe, their Senate defeated legalization, but now because of the composition, it looks like it'll pass. And to tell the truth, trust me, to the people of New Hampshire, you might as well legalize it because people from Vermont will grow it and traffic it into New Hampshire. We're right across the Connecticut River. What the fuck are you going to do to stop it? There are still people in Vermont that are like, ooh, there was this one woman on TV. She's like, oh, marijuana will hurt young minds, and we're worried it'll cause greater addiction, and you're crazy to legalize marijuana during an opiate crisis. Are you fucking nuts? What are you talking about? The fact that your police have to distract themselves going after someone who smells like weed is part of the problem of the opiate crisis. A lot of manpower and a lot of resources are expended on people that are doing nothing harmful and ignoring people who are shooting up. That's a big part of our problem. If you are worried about little Jimmy smoking weed, tell little Jimmy you'd prefer little Jimmy not smoke weed. That's the ultimate thing that you should do. Take initiative. Why don't parents, if they're so worried, take initiative? Why don't you, instead of asking Uncle Sam, because you know what Uncle Sam will do when they find you find little Jimmy smoking weed, you send him to his room. He says, well, my mom is such a square, man. Just wanted to smoke my pot. Oh, good thing I got a stash bag under the bed. Thanks for sending me my room, Mom. Can I order pizza? No? Oh, good thing I got a stash of that, too. That's what happens when Mom finds weed in little Jimmy's drawer. What happens when Uncle Sam finds weed in little Jimmy's drawer in a state where it's not even decriminalized? Little Jimmy gets a strike on it. Not getting any student loans, not getting a good job. Oh, you're a horrible addict. You probably end up on heroin. Well, we could shun you for the rest of eternity. And you know, basically, there's a risk he gets shot during an altercation. Cops barge into his room late at night. Oh, where's the weed? Where's the work? It's a SWAT team. This is a raid. Get the fuck on the floor, bitch. And then they shoot him in the head anyway, because, you know, he flashes a wallet at them. Well, you know, yeah, you really helped little Jimmy now, didn't you? The worst thing is, of course, it's actually happened. Like, there was a case, I remember years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, I think it was 2014 or 15, where there was a family and they had, like, small amount of drugs, supposedly. Like, someone smelled weed on them or thought they had meth or something. They had a toddler in a crib in one of the rooms next to the front door in their house. And the police threw a flashbang through because they were raiding it for drugs. It landed in the crib and scarred this kid for life. The family wasn't even due the ability to get any form of reparations from the police for that wrongdoing. They didn't even find any drugs. No law was actually broken. It was just, they suspected it. It was a no-knock raid on a mere suspecting that there might be drugs there. I mean, it never should have even been issued as a warrant. This kid could have been killed. He's been scarred for life. I'm sure that there's psychological trauma involved for the family and for this kid, who's probably 5 or 6 now. And nothing ever even happened to the police, and that was all because of the drug war. No, I'm sorry, I can't support that. I think it's totally abusive, it's unhelpful. It also harms our police. One big thing that people don't take into consideration is what happens when the police are perceived of as bullying people around and not understanding drug law anyway and being stupid when it comes to it. And this isn't the case for all of them, but that's the perception among a lot of people. What happens to the community cooperating with the police when something bad actually happens? Like, hey, that serial rapist over there. Well, I know who's been committing all these crimes, but I'm not going to say anything. I know who stole that car, but I'm not going to cooperate with the police. I don't want to be perceived of by all my friends as the snitch on the block. I don't really want to get my legs broken. I think I'll shut up. There you go. There's your big problem. That's worse in an inner city. In small town America, there's more maybe social cohesion most of the time. But it can still have a poor impact. Like even in a community like Rutland, you'd have something like that. There have been cases where the Rutland, I can remember one woman, I think, walked into the police station, stabbed a cop in the neck, and actually got acquitted. Then they had it on video that she did it, and they nullified the jury. This was a case of assault with a deadly weapon. I'm not even talking about, hippie hubbly bubbly over there was caught with a gram of weed. They let him go because they don't think weed should be illegal. This was assault with a deadly weapon. Could have killed the dude. And they let her go. And no charges. No, dismiss the case. found not guilty. Okay, go free. And everyone thought that was mystifying because it was so obvious a crime had been committed because you had it on video, you had absolute proof. That could only be the result of jury nullification, by the way. We need to end the drug war entirely. Don't rest on your laurels. We should look at psychedelics next. Because a lot of those substances, they're either not particularly harmful or not addictive, or they're religiously useful substances within certain spiritual contexts, certainly within an occult context. They shouldn't be illegal. Decriminalize them. You don't have to fully legalize them. But if someone's got a handful of mushrooms, they're not trafficking in mushrooms. They're taking mushrooms. It's a big difference. If they're doing it behind the wheel, yeah, it's a DUI. You can maintain that offense. They're going to do that with weed, exactly as I said they should. It doesn't require the scrapping of public safety to legalize a substance. All you have to do is relegate it to the same category you would alcohol. Because alcohol is an impairing and highly harmful, in more than very small amounts, substance. It's also a highly addictive substance. Well, it's a lot like heroin, actually, or cocaine. In fact, it's probably worse for you than cocaine, again, in moderate amounts. Oh yeah, I only snort a line every weekend or something and have a little party. Yeah, oddly enough, they'll probably fuck you up less than drinking a bunch of booze. Oddly. And yet it's on a totally different scheduling level. So I'm glad that they're legalizing it, and apparently it'll be 2 adult plants or 4 immature plants. Now, since you can only have up to an ounce legally, I'm not sure how they're going to reconcile that with plants that tend to produce, considerably more than an ounce of marijuana if they're grown properly. I guess we'll have to wait and see. That might be one of the kinks that they still have to hammer out in a future, like addendum. My thought is that, though, if you have that plant, they're not going to care. And it may be that it's decriminalized for limitless amounts now, and it's just fully legal for up to an ounce, like you can walk around with and stuff. Decriminalization takes effect for larger amounts, like in your own home or on a plant. That may be the case. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check more about the bill. But congrats to the Vermont Senate for having the sense to do this. If Phil Scott does drag his heels again, just override his veto. Just put it into effect anyway. That's about all. Peace out.